Oh, welcome back, everybody, to the Dusty Bender Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Chance Watson, with you as always, Taylor Wells, and producer Aaron Larson. Folks, episode 139 coming at you today, recording on a Thursday night. Boys, we got some hockey to talk about. We've got the deadline coming up. Lots going on. And I'm also breaking news. I am now opening another beer.
Wow. Way to save that for the live show, bub.
That's right. That's right. You know what? That is what puts us apart from the amateur podcasts out there. All right. Some people crack their beers before show. We do it live. Fuck it. We'll do it live.
Yeah, fuck it. We'll crack it live.
Do that. That's I think crack it live. That's what Bill O'Reilly said, right?
Yeah, that should be, a little deep dive into the Kraken, right? You crack it live.
We are definitely getting a call from Bill O'Reilly's lawyer.
Yeah, no, he's pissed.
I don't think he's doing much anymore. Like, I don't think he's got a show or anything. So
I think he went into the independent media, and he keeps writing. And he keeps writing books.
Oh, is he? Who's he killing now?
The last one I saw was the Salem Witches.
He's killing the Salem Witches.
There was something about him killing.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got his whole. Yeah, he's got his whole newsletter and website. He's continuing to be Bill O'Reilly.
Oh, okay, fair enough. For those who are unaware, Bill's books are always killing somebody. So it's his way of saying he's writing about this individual, like killing Lincoln or killing Kennedy, that kind of thing.
Like, are they negative pieces? Is that why he's killing them?
No,
I'm very confused.
I don't necessarily understand it either. I think I have the book on killing Lincoln somewhere in my repertoire of books that I was given when I was a young lad. No, I don't necessarily understand the meaning behind it, but they are these are his books writing about this individual kind of thing. I don't know why he says he's killing them.
I just always thought he was closer to the Mad Money guy. I thought that's what he was doing, not murdering dead presidents already. I'm very confused.
Well, I don't know. The Mad Money guys, they've got something right,
Speaking of, his cousin Ryan just scored a goal for the Nashville Predators. So
no shit.
Yep. There's a little hockey. There's your into the hockey talk.
There's our
baby,
segue,
right there.
Right? Just when you think you're out, we pull you right back in.
That's right. Perfect timing.
That's exactly right. All right, let's make some money real quick here, folks. We need to give a couple shout outs. First off, folks, the Hub Tavern out in Spokane, Washington. Hub Tavern is the best, the only, the absolute top hockey bar out in Spokane, Washington. Part of the Anchor Alliance. That means that they are officially affiliated with the Seattle Kraken. I was out there on Sunday, Taylor, and someone gifted them an official Seattle Kraken Jack Daniels cutout.
Beautiful.
This thing is probably half the size of the wall behind me. And it's got a Kraken player with tentacles behind him, and he's holding up a bottle of Jack. And
okay.
I love Dave and Mona, so I didn't steal it, but boy, oh boy, man, was I tempted.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen you run. I don't think you would have gotten that far, So I mean, you could have tried to steal it, but
all right, you're not wrong. But I'm going to give myself a little credit here, because when you've seen me run, not only were we intoxicated, but this was back when I was wearing A, cowboy boots, and B, I'm pretty sure that this was back when we were playing at U of I, and I had a broken ankle. So
yeah, I usually make excuses too when someone comments on my running style. But so I mean, what? Yeah, you've definitely elevated to wearing Converse and shit, right? So you could just book it.
I did wear I picked up a nice pair of Timberlands actually recently. Not to get too far off, but yeah. Stopped out at the Hub, got to see the Chicago game actually, which we'll talk about obviously later on. Got to see the Chicago game out there. Had a nice Bit Burger. If you are in Spokane, Washington, check out the Hub Tavern out on Monroe. Go on in there. Best place to watch hockey. Best place to have a beer. Cash only. So make sure you go in on there, or make sure you got a debit card so you can hit up that ATM. Also, a figurative hop, skip, and a jump from the Hub Tavern right down the road. Again, figuratively, not necessarily right down the road. Monterey Cafe. Folks, Monterey Cafe is the best karaoke bar out in Spokane, Washington, and has some of the best grab-and-go pizza that you can find. Just go on in, have a drunk slice of pizza or a sober slice of pizza. I mean, you don't have to be. It's not a prerequisite. It's not like you go up and you say, hey, can I have a slice? And then they breathalyze you. And if you're not above like 0.08, they're like, nah, I can't serve you, man. You're not drunk enough. It's not like Taco Bell, right? Like,
right.
I'm pretty sure at Taco Bell, you have to have a certain ABV before you are served after like what 10 o'clock at Taco Bell.
Yeah, bring your own booze too. You got to mix something with the Baja Blast, baby.
What's your favorite Baja Blast mixer? Like vodka, probably.
Yeah, vodka goes the best.
Yeah, that's the easy answer for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
I mean, you could go tequila, but it just it depends what kind of night you're trying to have.
Let's say I would have went off the board and said gin.
Oh no! See, I like to kind of keep that like that mossy, earthy flavor of the gin, right? That Baja gets too sweet.
Okay.
If I don't feel like I'm drinking a pine tree, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm not a fan of
that, baby. Yeah.
I love gin. I love.
Oh,
gin
you do?
Tonics.
Oh yeah,
love gin and tonics. Yeah,
but I'm one of those people. Like, I got that weird genetic defect that makes me think that cilantro tastes like soap. So apparently there's some science behind this. Like
you also only can see like a couple colors, right?
I struggle with blues, man.
Something with you, dude. You're
blues
DNA.
And purples. It's a problem apparently, or maybe it's just I have a problem with the New York Islanders. Could be that too. I forget they exist sometimes. But
this is what I'll mix with it occasionally. That's a selfless plug, but it's got the Kraken logo. That's New Amsterdam right there, baby.
That blue ribbon on there definitely looks like purple to me. I know it's blue.
It might be. I mean, in this low light, it could be. I don't know.
Okay, thank you for supporting my colorblindness. I appreciate it.
Cilantro doesn't smell like soap, but I can't. I don't have your back.
It tastes like soap.
Tastes like soap.
Tastes like soap.
All right.
Yeah. All right. By the way, Jeff's like, when are you gonna fucking finish my ad? Jeff, shout out to you, man. You're awesome. I missed you. I was at Monterey not too long ago. I missed you out there. But I got to watch actually a little bit of a Penguins game, ironically enough. When I was there, stopped in, had a slice, had a good time. Guys, if you're in downtown Spokane, check out Monterey. It's a great place to start the night. It's a great place to end the night. Awesome place. Love it. Always good people. The staff is fantastic. Always like to flip them shit when I'm in there, and they give it back just as good. So love the place, love the people, awesome times. Also, folks, we got to shout out the Hockey Podcast Network. We are a part of the Hockey Podcast Network. If you follow along with us pretty consistently, you might have seen us on Sunday, Aaron and I, on a live stream. We got to bring up because I know Taylor didn't watch it, so I got to bring up what we said he was doing at that time, which is a completely true statement. What we said. But yeah, part of the Hockey Podcast Network. Check out our live streams, even if we're not on there, and jump on over to hockeypodcastnetwork.com and check out the amazing amount of content that they have on there. Shows for basically almost every team and just general hockey talk. They're awesome. Love them. Happy to be a part of it. Last but not least, folks, Fire Chief John Miller. Fire Chief John Miller, longtime listener, longtime supporter of the show. He even made a guest appearance for a hot second on or not a guest appearance. I guess he popped into the stream on our stream on Sunday when we were talking about the Devils and the Lightning. Absolutely love the guy. Remember, fuck space heaters and change your smoke detector batteries.
Boom.
That's right. Nice. Yeah. So if you are watching this show and you did tune into the live stream, you might know that Taylor missed it because Taylor is Fanatics.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was missing it because on the weekend, like, Taylor just consistently underbids Nike and everybody else. And then on his weekends, he goes into the basement and he churns out this just garbage fucking merch.
He makes see-through baseball pants, right?
That's right.
Oh, yeah. Well, why? What? Come on, that's a great idea.
Look, I mean, someone you got to boost baseball viewership somehow. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah, and those guys are all caked up, so. Yeah, you might as well.
That's right, dude. They got the big old peaches down there.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about the Nugs, man. They get the They got them Tookuses too.
We haven't even got to the NHL. Taylor, what surprises do you have for the NHL? Are we gonna have like are the jerseys gonna be see-through?
Just in 2 areas.
Okay.
Right and left.
I like that.
Just little cutouts.
What about like post-game merch? Like, are you gonna I'm just guessing here, but like I'm thinking like crop tops, right?
I mean, that's an easy one, right?
All right.
I think denim jock straps, right? So like you get like a nice little, it's kind of classy, but at the same time, you get the full view.
Sure.
So yeah, we're cooking up a lot of things. If I had a basement, I'd be just turning them out, just absolutely getting after it. So
right, he doesn't have a basement.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if that's actually what I was doing, you don't think I'd be, I mean, that's what I'm currently doing. Like you can't see it or hear it, but like I'm churning right now.
Like
right?
like a classic sweatshop sewing machine underneath your desk.
Exactly. Like that's why you can't see my hands most of the time. So yes, I am fanatics.
That makes sense. That makes
broke as fuck.
We said that on the show, like that actually explains quite a bit. Like
sure, yeah.
that would definitely
spell Matthew's name?
Does Matthews have 2 T's or?
Right. They're gonna have such a field day with hockey names. Like the Fanatics is definitely gonna mess up like Arbor-Jacki, right? Like or Lyubushkin. Yeah, there's gonna be so many. Like,
dude, they're gonna fuck up Braden Point. Like they're gonna fuck up names that like just don't.
I was gonna say like we're
don't have any business being
the bar is you're setting the bar way too high. Like they're gonna screw up like normal names.
Right. They're gonna mess up Sebastian Aho.
Yes.
Jeez. Both of them.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Right.
I know. I wish I could have been there, but sometimes
no, it was a good time. The game wasn't anything to. I mean,
fine.
The Devils, and we can kind of let's kind of put a capstone on that. Like, I mean, the Devils are how many points out of a fucking playoff spot now?
I think 4 or 5.
No, it's more than that. I
think it's worse than that.
They're 6 points out of a wild card spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
With 3 games in hand.
Okay, so the hope's not lost, but you got to win those games, and they're currently on a. I think the last time I looked at it, they were like 4-5-1.
They're 5-4-1 their last 10, so they've just been playing 500 hockey. Like
it's not good enough to get into the playoffs. So
if these damn reporters would stop asking about the power play,
what it is,
they would just be ask Lindy if these reporters would stop asking questions, they would just be a wagon.
New Jersey. We need that meme where the Schwarzenegger arm goes together.
Mm-hmm.
Toronto and New Jersey fans agreeing that the media is ruining their team
is the problem.
Yeah.
And Toronto throws in that it's also Peros, right? So
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah.
That safety organization that's based in Toronto.
Sure.
Yeah. They're definitely very biased toward the Maple Leafs.
You know what game was sick on that day, though, that you guys were doing the live stream? Was that fucking Penguins Flyers game. Holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
That was an absolute barn burner.
Hell of a game.
Sidney Crosby tried to drag my fantasy team kicking and screaming to relevancy.
Oh,
God. It's such a shame that they're wasting like another Hart season from Crosby.
Unreal.
He's trying. He's trying to drag. He's trying to drag that team kicking and screaming into the playoffs, and they just refuse to go. They won't do it. They won't.
They will not.
The one day that Jari decides, I'm not going to play very well.
No. Yeah. It's such a good game.
Yeah, game was sick.
It was. There was
all right.
Games that day.
What do we got on the docket today? We haven't even started talking here.
Well, we got a trade. Taylor, I think we need to let's kick that off. So for those who are familiar with our show, longtime listeners, we'll usually do like a deadline primer episode. And if you are listening to this, then you are currently listening to it. We're going to get into some deadline primer stuff, some trade rumors, look at the trade bait board, and go to that in the second part of the show. We got a few news headlines to get to here, but as always, breaking news we'll go to breaking news first. We have a trade, probably the first thing that's going to kick off the trade deadline ruckus, so to speak, and it's a name that has definitely been talked about, definitely thrown around, and lots of people kicking tires on it. Taylor, you want to tell me who's involved?
Sure. So the Dallas Stars received Chris Tanev. You ever heard of him? And a guy named Cole Brady. So realistically, Chris Tanev, right?
Sure.
The Flames received 2024 second round pick Artem Grushnikov and a conditional 2026 third round pick. That condition, I believe, is if Dallas goes to the Stanley Cup final, right? So it probably drops to a fourth or something like that if they don't. Or is that the Dallas? So Devils are involved in this for some reason.
So the Tanev went from Calgary to Dallas by way of New Jersey. So he was traded. Calgary retained 50% of his salary. They traded him to New Jersey, who retained 50% of his salary. So the Stars are getting Chris Tanev at 75% retained. So that's where the fourth round pick to the Devils comes in, is because he got traded to them. So that's for their retaining of like $1 million of Chris Tanev's salary.
Okay. So, there was some fun attached to that.
So let's break this down by team. I call New Jersey. I want to talk about this from the New Jersey perspective. You guys, you want to talk? I mean, Aaron's a big Tanev fan, so maybe he can cover the Dallas perspective here.
There you go.
So Taylor, from Calgary's perspective, how you feeling about this trade?
I mean, everything we were being told.
You're a Calgary fan right now. You are a huge fan of Drake, and just love the Calgary Roundup. Like you like it's your reason to live is Flames games at the Saddle Dome and the Calgary Roundup.
Isn't Tate McRae a Flames fan? Isn't that that's her team, right?
I'm not sure. I know that she's Canadian.
If that's her team, then yeah, I can be a Calgary fan. Yeah, I mean, realistically, what we're being told the whole time is that a lot of the top defensemen on the market were going for first round picks, right? I think it was brought up a few times. We were kind of talking about it as well, and then a few folks were talking about it. Good chance that it was just set by, absolute rumors and all this bullshit, right? But I think in general, the consensus was kind of, okay, Tanev, right? We kind of see these big defensemen, that can play some good hockey, going for a first round pick. I mean, but what is it? Ben Sherratt, right? We've seen that. We've seen Orlov has a little bit of offense to his game, but we've seen him go for first, right? So, I think there was kind of that assumption that that's what would happen, and so getting a second in a prospect and that's what really all they got. I mean, I guess you could say that the third round pick too, right? But yeah, I mean, I think from Calgary's standpoint, right, they're just trying to figure out what the next step is, right? So just getting rid of, maybe there wasn't a first, right? They weren't seeing a first, and I think in that regard, right, like I would love to see them possibly wait a little longer, right? Get a little closer to the deadline and see if someone gets real desperate and get that first. Yep. I think it was a little underwhelming for Calgary, but not terrible. I mean, a second round pick in this year's draft is still, you can still get an NHL player potentially out of that pick.
And do you think, not saying like working the market, like can you get a first? I'm saying like if you're another GM, do you think he's worth a first round pick?
I think he needs to be. In reality, we can pop over to Aaron after this point, but I think in reality, right, it just depends on the makeup of your team, right? If you're a GM and you're looking for, I mean, realistically, right, you have an offensive second pairing defenseman that just needs a big body that can play some defense on that other side. Why not, right? Your first round pick could potentially be 32nd. Right. So, who are you going to actually pick up at 32nd? And if that gets you over that hill, then hell yeah, I'm doing it. But I think a second is, and that's why I think it was a little low, right? That's potentially 63 people ahead of him.
Eric, Taylor, I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. We'll finish the point. We'll finish the point on, we'll come back to Tanev in a second. Ilya Lyubushkin, he's going to Toronto, 75% retained. The Ducks get a third, and the Hurricanes get a sixth. So Ilya Lyubushkin on his way to
out
Toronto.
Of town. What did I say right before we started, boys? 3rd round pick.
Yep. Well, they were pulling him off the ice for
So we knew that he had been pulled for trade reasons, but it's just coming across Twitter that
that's live.
That's
right.
So
we're literally breaking a trade. It's happening.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's the right price for him.
Okay. I
like that for all involved. That's fine.
We don't need to go into Lyubushkin too much. Like at the end of the day.
Is he back? Wait, hold on. Wasn't he in Toronto? He was in Toronto for a little bit, I believe. So we'll have to let me fact check that. Yeah, go for it, Aaron. Let me fact check that.
Yeah, so from the Stars perspective, it's a slam dunk, right? Like, so what you kind of have to get into like what Chris Tanev is and isn't. Chris Tanev is one of the best defensive defensemen in the NHL. Like, full stop, he just is. Like, but he doesn't contribute much offensively. And so if you're a team like the Stars and your defensive core is currently constructed, you have Miro Heiskanen and you have Thomas Harley, who's really solidified himself on that top pair, sliding someone like Chris Tanev in to help bolster your second pair, probably with Esa Lindell. You run that as like your shutdown pair, and then you're able to move, like everyone just kind of slots in around accordingly. Mm-hmm. And like what Chris Tanev does, like he's both, like he both matches the eye test and the analytics. Like he has great underlying numbers. You can look at basically any like expected goals model or any like analytics that you want, and he has some of the best underlying numbers of any defenseman in the league in his own zone. He's great. He's great on the boards. He's great in puck retrieval and exiting the zone with possession. So you add a guy like that to this Stars team, and like you said, Taylor, like the makeup of the Stars, they don't need help scoring goals. Mm-hmm. They need other guys that can be defensively responsible in their own zone, that can either run as like a shutdown pair or that can just help you like drive play 5-on-5 and get out of your own zone so that Pavelski and Robertson and, going down the list, right? Of like all those guys can start doing their thing, right?
It takes
and Lindell has a little bit of offense too. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Like you need those guys. And so from this perspective, both what you got, like how he fits into their roster and how their roster is constructed, and what you paid, realistically, you paid a second, a third, and a fourth, and a prospect who is not one of your top prospects. He's not He's not in the top 5 in the Stars pipeline. Right. So you didn't give up any. You didn't give up any prospect of note, realistically, and you didn't trade your first. So you kept that, and you got what I think is the best defenseman that we knew to be available. Right, like he wasn't there. Maybe that someone springs loose that we hadn't expected, but of the names that were out there, I think Chris Tanev is the best of them, and you got him, and you didn't have to pay a very steep price. So I think it's perfect. I think it's perfect for Dallas.
Okay, so I think I'll only disagree with like 40% of what you said. I think no, it is. I do see it as a win for Dallas. Like at the end of the day, the need fits for Dallas. Like you said, I don't necessarily. I think Tanev is a B- B defenseman in the sense that he does one thing really well. He's not necessarily, but you don't want, I'm contradicting myself in the sense of like, I like well-rounded defensemen. I think he's more of like the ideal person of like a solid defenseman, not necessarily jumping up into the play and contributing offensively. And he does to a degree, but not. And that's not what you're getting Chris Tanev for. Like you get somebody, you put Chris Tanev on the ice to make sure that you're not getting scored on. You're not putting him on the ice to help you score. So that's what Dallas needed. So it is fitting the need. I feel like the price is peanuts, like at the end of the day, I'm sure Calgary probably should have played this a little more. Taylor, you made a really good point of like, maybe wait to the deadline and see if somebody panics and we'll give you a first. And apparently there were even rumors of a first on the table, but they also wanted to take a contract. Yeah. So like Calgary would get a first, but they would also have to take like a dead contract or a bad contract. And they weren't wanting to do that because,
And there were some reports that they just didn't want to play, like they didn't want to play ball with some team. Like there were some reports that like they didn't want to trade him to Toronto or they didn't want to trade him to Vancouver, right? So like they were kind of limiting the market by themselves. And so like which doesn't make sense to me. And the weirdest thing to me is like the timing of this deal, right? Like we're not near, we're still a week out from the deadline.
Yeah, wait it out.
And so like I don't understand from Calgary's perspective the urgency when this is the return, right? Like it's not like Dallas like blew them away.
Sure.
So I don't get the urgency. And the one thing I will say with Tanev that you kind of have to say, he plays, like Kraken fans would be familiar, he plays very similar to Brandon Tanev. He is a very high compete, like high energy. Yeah. He's going to block shots. He's going to dig in the corners. And as a result of that, he has, over the last couple of years, he has been a little injury prone. So that's the concern with Chris Tanev, right? Is I don't have any concerns with him as the player or the fit, but if he can stay on the ice, I think he's exactly what Dallas needs.
If he snaps his Achilles tendon tomorrow, like it's not like Dallas isn't like at the end of the day, is this a needle mover? It's definitely not a needle back by any means. They don't get worse by adding Chris Tanev. I'm just not necessarily convinced that it all moves it. Like it's more of a shoring up of a defense kind of thing and less of like we're making a run kind of thing.
Yeah, so, I see where you're coming from, right? Like we're because of his numbers and analytics, like he is very defensive. I think one of the things that I believe Aaron did talk about it, and I've seen from his numbers, is with those defensive defensemen, a big thing is how are they moving the puck, right? Like what does their breakout look like? Because for those kind of players, that's their offense, right? Their offense is literally, can I shut it down, right? And can I quickly turn that back up ice for my actual offensive players to go get that puck, right? So, and I think he does, if I remember correctly, does have some good numbers there. So,
he's one of the best in the league at winning board battles and zone exits with possession. So, like he's going to dig in a corner, he's going to break up a cycle, and he's going to get it to the forwards to move, right? Like that's exactly, like I'm looking at the D pairs right now. So they have Harley and Heiskanen as their first line. Currently, their second pair is I can share that. Yeah, so for their first pair is Harley Heiskanen. Currently, their second pair is Hakanpää and Esa Lindell, and then you have Niels Landqvist and Ryan Suter on your third pair. So you slide. So you slide Yanni Hakanpää down to your third pair to play with Ryan Suter, or if you wanted to balance out, like Harley and Heiskanen are both offensive defensemen. So if you wanted to balance those lines out, maybe you slide Harley down to your second pair, you have Tanev with Heiskanen, and then you have two more balanced pairs, and then so like it gives them options, and so I think adding a guy like Chris Tanev, like it just kind of slots in the rest of the decor in a way that I think is more appropriate. So you're not like last year, you're not running out a guy like Yanni Hakanpää playing bigger minutes than maybe he should against teams like Vegas and against teams like Edmonton, and these teams are going to run into the playoffs, right? Like you can shelter those guys a little bit more, and now I think it just rounds out their decor.
Have I been under a rock? Who's this Thomas Harley guy?
Thomas Harley,
man.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah,
he's settled in really nicely with Heiskanen. He's another like offensively minded defenseman. But they play really well together. Yeah, he's been very good for them.
You mean like a better John Klingberg?
No. God, remember when they were going to give John Klingberg $7 million for 8 years?
Yeah,
you remember this?
So the Ducks did, yeah.
They gave him 7 for 1. Yeah. But the before he signed with the Ducks, the Stars were going to give him 8 by 7.
They were.
And so like no one fumbled the bag more than John Klingberg.
Anyway, because he tried to take a prove it deal in Anaheim, and did prove
it under Dallas Eakins, the worst defensive team in the fucking history of the Ducks.
Yeah, then he took
close to the fucking league.
Yeah, then he took a prove it deal in Toronto, and he was never heard from again.
That's right. Yeah, well, I think he got hurt, but that's not necessarily his fault. But the other thing that I wanted to you mentioned that he's the best defenseman available. I would agree that he's the best defensive defenseman. Like being a defender, I would argue that Jacob Chikrin has a more offensive upside.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean the other guy that's been floated around is Noah Hannafin. Like those are the three, and of the three, I would rather have Chris Tanev, especially for 1 year of Chris Tanev.
Depends on the team.
You're not locking in. You're not like he's a UFA after this year, right? So like you don't have any long-term commitments with him if it doesn't work. So
I think that's right. I think like if you already have some offensive defensemen on your team, the way your roster is built out, right? A Tanev fits perfectly. Yep. Right. I think if you're gonna go, like a good thing for like what I'm looking at, right? So say Boston, say potentially Edmonton, right, where you got Bouchard and a couple other guys there. That's, you know, Edmonton probably could afford to use a guy that's more of a two-way guy, right? Like a Noah Hannafin, because, you know, outside of Bouchard, right? Who's doing it, right? Ekholm has a little bit of offense. Nurse has a little bit of offense, right? Like, you know, that would kind of fit in there with more of an offensive defenseman. Whereas, you know, and same thing with Boston. Whereas, yeah, I mean, you're looking at Heiskanen, the way that Harley's been playing, right? Harley's showing up to be the guy, right? That's a perfect fit for them. So I think you're right. I think definitely a top 3 for me, Tanev. And I think, you know, I think we as hockey fans, we put a lot of emphasis onto they probably got to have a little bit of offense too. You know, so I think that's where, you know, a lot of people would probably put him down a few pegs, but that's a guy you win championships with, right?
So that's
good
more
defensive analytics, man.
Absolutely. And that's how I kind of think. Like modern take is, you know, who wins the Norris Trophy nowadays? It's not the best defenseman. It's the most offensive defenseman.
Sure.
You know, like in a year where Erik Karlsson wins the Norris Trophy when he was arguably the worst fucking defenseman in the league, because he just didn't care about playing defense and was just hanging out the blue line, passing the puck and scoring goals. You know, it's all relative, you know. When it comes to winning Stanley Cups, though, you're absolutely right, Taylor. Like it is about, you know, the Chris Tanev type. On that blue line, it's defense first, and then somebody that can maybe chip in on the offense, or you get an all-star that can play both. You know, Cale Makar can do both. You know, that's just how it is. From the Devils' perspective, I know it seems like I picked the one that's the least interesting, but there's a lot of layers to it because the route we talked about in the last episode, you know, the Devils were linked to Markstrom with Calgary. So them facilitating this trade and taking some of the cap salary, especially a team that, as Aaron has pointed out many times, they're capped out. Like this is not a team that has any flexibility. Why the hell would New Jersey play a middle ground role in this and retain salary on anyone? And then the rumor mill started immediately churning like, oh, this is a handshake deal to eventually get Markstrom because New Jersey had been linked to Calgary to get Markstrom. As of today, it sounds like the rumor mill is that Markstrom's not going anywhere. But again, as Taylor kind of alluded to earlier, this is the year. This is the time of year where the insiders make their money. They suck up to GMs, perhaps literally, and literally like the GMs will go, hey, I need to increase or decrease the value on a certain player. I need to turn up the heat on this person. Do your thing. So then, you know, Frank Saravelli will go out and say like, oh, Gibson's played his last game, you know, or something along those lines to increase the chatter and get the rumor mill talking. So it seems so you can maybe get fan base pressure to make a move. And like that's what's happened with Elias Pettersson recently. You know, Pettersson's been, Pettersson doesn't want to talk about a contract extension. Oh, where's he going? He might go somewhere. And now the latest rumor is that he's talking like an 8-year deal. So
yeah, I mean, Pettersson's an RFA, right? Like he can't. He has one more. He's like the Canucks own his rights for one more year, so it wouldn't. Like realistically, they wouldn't want to do anything. The bigger thing with the Pettersson stuff is like you're starting to hear the chatter of like, is it a distraction? Is Pettersson not being signed why the Canucks have kind of stalled and not that they're shooting 15% or whatever?
That is 100% coming from Pettersson's agent. Like Pettersson's agent is putting that rumor into the ether and he's putting it, and then that ether goes onto Twitter, and then you know, people like us talk about it, and then that pressures management in Vancouver because they are fucking weak-willed, it seems like, to start contract negotiations. So if that's the case, we're all just speculating here, but it's not the first time that GMs have used hockey media and insiders to manipulate the market on things. Like before Tanev went, Taylor, it was like a day before Tanev went, we're like, oh, you know, the market's tightened up. Like a lot of teams are on the bubble, so no one's selling. So the value of everybody's gone up. Like it's multiple first round picks for like basically everybody. And now Tanev, the belle of the ball for defense, so to speak, goes for a second rounder.
Yeah, and I think It's just part of the fucking game, dude.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
So yeah, to me, like I know, and Calgary has played a lot better. I think Calgary is like 7-3-1 in their last 10 or something like that, right? So there is very much a potential that they don't want to move Markstrom because they could squeak in. I mean, they could still squeak in. I still think, we're not quite to that point where I'm like, they're completely out. But I think at this point with Dustin Wolf, with Wolf in the wings and honestly, Vladar, right? Like he's played okay in some spouts, right? And he's an unrestricted free agent. So yeah. It'll be interesting. I think you're right. I think it's definitely that Markstrom not being available is definitely a ploy, right? I think New Jersey basically showed their hand, right? They're like, okay, look, we're willing to take some of this, right? Whether or not that means they maybe get Vladar, right? Who knows, right? Or maybe, maybe they're shedding someone from the roster to get Wolf. I don't know what they're looking at with all this stuff, right?
It just doesn't help them, insane,
but
unless they're throwing in the towel. Like this doesn't making their cap situation even worse does not make sense to me.
Well, and a fourth rounder doesn't. I mean, it's pointless. Like you're even if you're throwing in the towel, it doesn't make you any better.
Yeah,
you're
not going to pull anyone out of fourth rounder. So, but and I think Neil, part of the oh shit, Neil, I'm blanking on what your podcast is. I apologize.
It's the Devil's State of Mind.
Yes, thank you, Taylor. Neil, we talked about it on Twitter. We had a little conversation with them. Like, it's too little, too late anyway. Like, I mean, if Markstrom, say New Jersey grabs Markstrom tonight as we do this episode, is it enough to climb New Jersey back into the playoff race? Even if they go above, even if they play like 6-4, 7-3 hockey for the rest of the way, like Tampa's not playing bad, and Detroit is, it might be fake good hockey, but they are playing good, so to speak. So, and the points differential is just, it's a lot to overcome.
Let me go back on that just a second. Tampa is not playing good, dude. I do not like Tampa right now. They just lost again tonight to Buffalo, right? They're actually not playing that good of hockey.
They're kind of sputtering.
They're playing 500 hockey. They're playing 500, but if they play 500 hockey and New Jersey plays 500 hockey, then Tampa wins.
But if New Jersey gets a goalie and they play 600 hockey for the next 20 games, then like they have games in hand, right? Like you got to win those games in hand, obviously. But like if they get a goalie and Tampa continues to sputter, right? Like they're not technically out of it. And one of the things that, like, because they are capped out, but one of the things that I saw actually right before we started recording was one of the names that's been floated around leaving New Jersey is Tyler Toffoli, which would free up $4.5 million. Like there were some reports that there were some reports that like Vegas was interested in Toffoli, and there's some other teams that have been kicking the tires on him. But like,
you get rid of Toffoli would be
not where I would
go to a run. Like if you're getting rid of Toffoli, then why would you do it?
I mean, if you're getting rid of Toffoli to bring in a goalie, that would be the thing, right? Like you have to make that. You have to make that swap, and like,
but I think
Tyler Toffoli is good, but
this isn't Thanos. Like, I don't need to kill my firstborn.
You do when you have $400,000 in cap space.
I think for me though, there's two other names that I would hope that teams would bite on that have decent cap hits. Are Timo Meier, who's not having a good season, right?
Yeah,
is starting to heat up a little bit. Right. And if I'm a GM, I can sell that. Right. I can sell the shit out of that. The other one is Andre Palat, right? Has a cup. I think he has 2 cups.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got 2 cups in Tampa.
2 with Tampa, right? So, I mean,
guy's a solid third line guy on a competing team.
100%.
That they're paying $6 million until 2028.
Exactly. Right. So I think that, those two to me are definitely ones that I would be taking a look at. Toffoli, I don't want to move because, I mean, I understand why we'd want to do that, right? If I'm New Jersey, because you want to go, potentially put Timo Meier on that top line, right? Or move Holtz all the way up.
You're thinking that Dawson Mercer can take that spot because he's having a shit season,
and he's played better on that first line, right? Like when Jack Hughes was down, he had a nice little stretch of games, right, where he's one of those kids that just kind of has to run the line.
Yeah,
he is the Energizer Bunny for whoever he's playing with. So. It'll be interesting to see, but I there's just no way that if you're New Jersey, you retain that, and there's not, what do you like? I mean, what's going on behind the scenes where you're doing that for Calgary and then you're just basically saying, screw it. You're welcome.
It feels like a move you make when you're punting on the season, right? Like it seems like they might be thinking about goalie in the off season.
Right. So I think the take here from a New Jersey perspective is that like if all New Jersey does is that, what the fuck are we doing? Like I know it's still we're still a week and change out away from the actual trade deadline. By the way, plug. We'll be moving our episode next week to Friday so we can give you guys day of trade deadline coverage right after. So we'll be able to cover all the trades that happened up until and on the day of. Anyway, so I mean, there's still lots of time. Things can change, things can happen, but at the moment. This is very perplexing, especially with the rumors coming out. Again, it could be just a tactic, but the rumors coming out that Calgary doesn't want to move Markstrom. And Taylor, you're right. I guess I'd kind of written Calgary off a little bit. They're not in it. Like, I mean, they're one spot out, but I mean, 5 points. New Jersey, LA's playing okay. Predators are on a fucking heater. Who saw that coming, right? So, like, arguably at the moment, it's Calgary versus LA. Who's going to do better? And I don't know. Like, LA's been playing better. I don't want to say good, but better. So yeah, that's interesting. So, but yeah, if New Jersey gets caught in a fucking, we're doing this as a goodwill gesture, please give us your goalie, and then it turns out that Calgary's not interested in doing that. But then again, I don't know. Like, hasn't Calgary already waved, as the Calgary representative on this discussion, hasn't Calgary already waved the right flag by getting rid of like key pieces of this team?
Well, and I kind of said it more or less to just stir the pot when it happened. But I honestly looked at the Lindholm trade as a kind of awakening, right? They went on a little bit of a heater once they moved him. I know Kuzmenko's hurt now. But it's not like Kuzmenko's he had a hot start.
He's doing okay.
Yeah, I mean he's doing okay, but better than he was in Vancouver. But I kind of with Markstrom playing the way that he was, right? I feel like it kind of shook them a little bit, right? And that's why they're 7-3-1. So yeah, I can they do it? Sure, right? I mean they might be able to do it. The Sharangovich experiment at center was a little meh, but I mean they can still sneak in. I think LA has been floundering, right? I know they've turned the ship a little bit around, but man alive, that's a spot up for grabs in my opinion.
Hold on, the Leafs are also receiving the rights to Kirill Slepets.
Yep, sure.
Okay,
sounds right.
Aaron, I need you to do a deep dive on Kirill Slepets. I need to know what his junior team was.
I need a 10-page report from you on Kirill Slepets by the end of the episode.
For the few Maple Leaf listeners that we have not completely alienated, I need to explain why Kirill Slepets is the future of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Lyubushkin on a side quest here did play for Toronto 21-22 for 31 games.
Lyubushkin
go back, baby.
Lyubushkin is a side quest. Like,
hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. Like, he's not the main plot. He is a side quest.
Dude, I remember I would yell at him in the Coyotes rink when he played for the Coyotes because he was so bad, dude. It was literally like Alexiak, man.
He's a KHL guy. He's over he's over there playing in Russia.
From the
yeah, I think so. But yeah, also I just pulled up the Calgary Flames cap friendly page, which is one of the bleakest things I've ever read. They're going to be paying Nazem Kadri $7 million when he's 40.
Fuck yeah.
They're going to be paying Mackenzie Weegar $6 million until he is 37. And Jonathan Huberdeau is going to make 10.5 until he is like 37. So it's all going great. Yeah, so it's all.
Oh man,
it's bleak and it's getting bleaker in Calgary.
Dmitry Filipovic makes a very good point. The pick the Leafs traded for Lyubushkin last time, not this time, last time, still hasn't even been made yet.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So it's very like, I mean, if I'm a Maple Leafs fan, like he's the piece, right? He's the missing piece, right? Am I wrong on this?
Yeah, no, he definitely gets him over the hump.
Like, I mean, he's the track record of Russians named Kirill coming to the NHL is very good. So,
well, I was talking about Lyubushkin too. Like Lyubushkin's obviously better now than he was when he was with them before. Mm-hmm. And it's just going to be Lyubushkin and Riley again on that blue line.
Yeah.
You think the new GM, like he made the trade and then like somebody comes up, he's like, hey, did you know that he used to play for us?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Like, hey, by the way, no, Lyubushkin's had a decent season down in Anaheim. I think he's really done well because Pavel Minchikov, they just speak Russian and stuff. So hopefully right. Toronto, maybe Toronto has maybe that's why they brought the other guy over. They're just gonna put him in the press box, let him chat a little bit.
Lyubushkin's 1% WAR.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Fuck yeah.
That's why the 3rd round pick, right? I mean, that's why he's worth a 3rd rounder instead of Tanev is probably worth more, but yeah, that's 3rd round pick shit. So
that's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in any case, okay. So I think we've battered the Chris Tanev trade to death. I think. Is there anything else you guys want to throw on that?
No. Stars, man. I hope you threw some money down on the futures for the Stars because that's looking a little better now.
A little bit. I'm not still convinced that they have what it takes to get over. Well, let's be honest, Vegas.
But water gets hot, man. You never know.
That's true. He is actually. Would you believe if I said that Joey Decord has a better save percentage than Jake Ottinger?
He came back from injury and has struggled a little bit. So
I think he's barely clinging on to. I think it was like a .901, 907, something like that.
Damn, he's really struggling.
Yeah, he has not been doing well, unfortunately, and I don't think they have a backup really that's worth a fuck. So could be a problem.
Sure.
All right. Let's get to the other big news. The feel-good story coming out of the NHL. Game on Sunday. Chelios. Big. This is a pro Chelios show. Both
Chelly's chili, maybe.
2 of the 3 people on the screen, if you're listening, or 2 of the 3 voices have met Chelios in person. We do know that he hates golf. We have confirmed that. For a fact, we have that on recording, on record. Chelios fucking hates golf
and loves sunshine.
That's right. Loves sunshine.
The guy is so tan, dude.
So tan. Loves upsetting the U.S. Coast Guard by jumping into Coeur d'Alene Lake.
Yeah. Who doesn't love that?
And loves to ride bikes in the sauna.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely love the guy. In a confusing move, more often than, let's be honest, like Blackhawks are bad. They need a reason to sell tickets. They have decided to retire Chris Chelios' number after playing 9 seasons for them and winning 2 Norris trophies with the Chicago Blackhawks. And on Sunday, in a game where they were playing the Detroit Red Wings, obvious nod to him playing 11 seasons with the Detroit Red Wings. Retirement ceremony where they hung his jersey up in the rafters and no one will ever be able to wear that jersey for the team again. Comes out, says a lot of nice things. Says a lot of nice things about Chicago, but also was very realistic. I think out of all the, everybody's pointing to like, oh, he said that Kane's going to go down as the best natural born player and he's going to have his jersey retired here too. No, I clung on to like the tongue in cheek joke of like, hey, Kaner, that Red Wings jersey probably feels pretty weird. It'll grow on you. And that hit me because like, it's so much like it's parallels, like the 2 did not exactly the same thing, but roughly, like going from Chicago to Detroit, hated original 6 rivals, blah, 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 blah. That to me was kind of the coolest part of Chelios' speech. Do you guys think that Chelios is deserving of jersey retirement?
In Chicago, absolutely.
Let me add to that. Should it be in Chicago?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, both places. Yep.
Should absolutely yes. And like he was there. Chelios didn't get to Detroit until he was 37, and then he played 10 more years in Detroit until he was 47. That part of it is insane. And like, yeah, he won a cup when he was playing with every All-Star from 1997 to 1999. Like, great. I'm happy for you. But like as an individual player, his best years were in Chicago.
Oh, right.
So yeah, he absolutely should. And like Chicago's weird with their jersey retirements. There's like up until 1950, and then there's a gigantic gap, and then it's going to be like the dynasty teams, right? So like there's not any recognition of like great players that played in Chicago prior to like Kane, Taves, like when those guys go up.
They didn't really have any. Like,
I mean they had like the guys would be like Chelios and Roenick, right? Like there have been guys like they had players. Like it's not like the team was totally like bereft of talent.
Roenick put up his points in Chicago, right?
He put up a lot of he put up a lot. But also then you got to deal with Jeremy Roenick, and that's weird for other reasons. But like Chelios, I have no problem with him being retired, and like it's for the ultimately jersey retirements are for the fans, right? And
agreed.
Like he was great in Chicago. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be there.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably equal amount of Chelios Chicago jerseys as there is Detroit Chelios jerseys, right? So, sure. I mean, it makes sense.
It depends on when you talk about it, because like I remember listening to a Chelios interview when he was on Spit and Chicklets, and like when the Chelios trade went down, like when he went to Detroit, there were many years where he was booed mercilessly anytime he went to Chicago.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's
a fades over time, though, right?
Sure.
Like
short memories.
Oh yeah, very short memories, absolutely.
Yeah,
like Kaner. I mean, Kaner. There were people. So not to skip ahead on it, but Kaner scores the OT goal in that game. Like people were fucking cheering. Like you would have thought.
Oh yeah, it was standing ovation from the red line in, right? Like
you would have thought you were at the Red Wings game and you weren't, but everybody was cheering on Kane for scoring the OT winner.
That's I wouldn't do that if I'm Chicago.
Okay.
The guy brought me cups and shit like that. He's still on the other team. We do this in football a lot, right? And we boo the quarterback that comes back out, like the Broncos, right? Fucking Russell Wilson comes back and plays in Seattle, and of course you're gonna boo him, right? You have to do that, right? That's the way he doesn't play for your team, dude. So I mean, I'm definitely I'm for sure I'm probably not booing Kane because he gave us some really good times and shit like that. Like I probably wouldn't have booed Russell Wilson, honestly, but I would have just sat there and been arms crossed with my beer, right? Like I would cheer for him, but
I'd go as far as to say that without Kane, they would not have won those cups. I know that those squads were stacked. I know that. Like that's taking a lot away from Jonathan Toews, Corey Crawford, Patrick Sharp, Duncan Keith. Like there was a lot of great guys on that roster, but Patrick Kane is the core of all of that. Like it doesn't work unless he's there.
But you don't, if you are in that stadium and you have a Chicago jersey on your fucking body, you do not cheer for that motherfucker to score the OT winner. I'm so sorry. If you are a Chicago fan and you did that, turn in your NHL fan license, dude. That is fucking terrible.
How do you think Peter Mrazek felt? Like Kane's coming down. He's in a home game and everyone is cheering for the guy who, by the way, like just pieced out of his, like he had a breakaway from the blue line in because he just totally just pieced out on the play and just was like, oh, that guy moved to his right. I'm not crossing over there. I'm just going to fly like 10 miles out of the zone. Like it was a cool moment, but like, I don't have any issues with any of it. Like, I think all that's fine, except for like, the standing ovation while he's coming down to beat your team. And also like, if you're Detroit, why are you going to overtime against the Chicago Blackhawks? That's not a good
100%.
That's not where you want to
be. So before we move into my rant about the Red Wings, anything else on like that? Because that night was like in the moment. I remember like watching that Kane goal. Like you gotta feel the warm and fuzzies, like the tingles in the chest. Like that was definitely a cool storybook ending for the game. Yes, Aaron, totally understand. Like shouldn't have even went to. Yes, but Kane getting it. Definitely a cool thing. The Chelios Kane connection there. Kane's first time back in Chicago since playing there as a Red Wing. Lots of storylines. Couldn't have been written better by a WWE scriptwriter. You know what I mean?
That's the other thing. It's not like his first return. He went back there with New York, right?
I don't think so.
Like so, didn't he? Okay, I thought he went. I thought the Rangers played. I didn't think that was the first time Kane had been back. But,
yeah,
okay.
no,
I might be wrong on that. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think he went back. I don't think he went back. I think they played the Blackhawks, but I don't think they went back.
Yeah. Okay. Last thing I'll say on that: Chelios Chili in Detroit shut down in 2018, boys. So
it's very unfortunate.
Can't get Chelios Chili.
I think it's. I will say that, and I'm definitely biased, but I'm sorry. When I was growing up, when I really was starting to my brain was turning on in the early 2000s.
Developing,
Yeah, exactly. Like in the 90s, I don't count. As much as I like to think of myself as a Red Wings fan, and I know they won it in 96 and 97 or 97, 98, whatever it is. I get that, but I was, 6. Couldn't remember that. Wasn't necessarily I was still learning hockey. Wasn't into it. It was the early 2000s when I really knew hockey and was super invested into it. Back then, the Blackhawks were Tony Amonte and Nikolai Khavibulin.
I was gonna say Amonte earlier, dude. Hell yeah.
Tony, which I mean, I'm gonna be honest, the complete ignorance here. Aaron could probably look it up. Did Tony Amonte actually do anything, or he was just the best player at that time on Chicago? I don't know if he holds any records or if he actually was good. I just remember it was Tony Amonte, Nikolai Khavibulin, and there was probably one other guy that made up that very mediocre mid Chicago team back in the
Tony Amonte had 900 points.
Let's pretty good. Okay.
Let's put he had 400 goals, he had 900 points. Let's put some respect on Tony Amonte.
It wasn't necessarily a diss on Tony Amonte. It wasn't necessarily a diss on Tony Amonte. It was more of just a diss on the rest of his team. Those are the only two guys. Sure. I remember Nikolai Khavibulin and Tony Amonte, and that's it. There is no one else from those Chicago rosters that I remotely remember that stand out to me because the Hawks were just so mediocre back then.
Oh, fanatics trying to spell Khavibulin on the back of a fucking jersey.
Oh my god.
Holy.
Dude, do you get a lot of orders for Nikolai Khavibulin jerseys, Taylor?
Not as many as I used to, but they've definitely been coming back. Now it's Nedeljkovic.
Oh fuck. A lot of Pittsburgh fans you cater to, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Monterey. Jeff's hitting me up.
That's Jeff is ordering all of the Nedeljkovic. He gets 3 pieces of Nedeljkovic gear, and they're all spelled differently.
They're all spelled wrong. One of them doesn't even spell Pittsburgh right. Yeah.
Is it 2 T's in Pittsburgh?
TTs.
Is it 2 T's? 3 T's. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Probably 4 T's, honestly.
Sure.
But yeah, okay. So I think that's about it. I just don't, I guess my point of all that was I've always thought of Chelios as a Red Wing. And that's just my own personal perspective. I'm not old enough to know Chelios as a Blackhawk. I've only known him as a Red Wing, and I think to a lot of people he will always be a Red Wing. It's kind of that's just how it goes. It's
his legend, realistically, as good as he was in Chicago, his legend was made in Detroit because of how fucking old he was, dude.
Yep.
Yeah,
how long he
and how well he was playing.
And he still was playing good, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I get that. I get that totally. All right.
Well, hey,
let's. Yeah.
Want to do a quick mid-roll, huh?
Let's do it.
All right. Cool. We know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code THPN as in the Hockey Podcast Network. New customers bet just $5 on the NHL and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN as in the Hockey Podcast Network. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2024, all rights reserved.
What's DraftKings up to, Taylor? I didn't catch that, any of that.
I don't know. I blacked out, dude. I honestly
okay. All right.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm saying. It's the only thing I remember is ccpg.org. It's the only shit I fucking remember. The rest just comes out.
Maybe one day we should pre-record that.
Nah, dude. It's more fun to just test my auctioneering skills
your stamina of some kind.
I like sure. That. What do we got?
Cool.
All right, boys. So pre-trade deadline, thought it'd be a good idea to take a look at the trade bait, see who we think is gonna move. If you guys have thoughts where they're moving, and so I think we can kind of start at the top unless you guys have some other names, but name that's been out there for a long time, Noah Hannafin.
I want to, before we get to Noah Hannafin, I do want to address someone that's not on this list right now.
Edmonton.
Can I cut in real quick?
Cut into the cut in.
Sure.
Can we zoom that in a little bit? My old.
Oh my god, you are so blind,
dude! And I have the glasses on. No one else is even wearing fucking bifocals.
Do you go into your text messages and it's like that old person type where it's like 3 letters a page because it's so fucking big?
Chance. We're way past that, dude. It literally, I have it read it to me.
There you go.
You know, like I don't even know what I'm looking at. That's perfect. Thank you.
Oh my god.
You're welcome.
Jesus Christ.
All right. Chance, what's up?
Might as well be a billboard at this point. Our audio listeners have no idea what's going on.
Sure.
Yeah. In any case, okay. So real quick, we've scrolled through this list before the mics went hot. John Gibson is not on this list.
Not at all.
Not even like low on the list. Like he's not on. Jake Allen is on this list, and Gibson is not.
Dude, Tampa Bay has a first-round draft pick on this list, but John Gibson's not there.
They are higher trade bait than John Gibson.
Crazy.
So my question is like we've talked about a lot about John Gibson, and a lot of people know that this is a pro John Gibson show. Like we think that despite him being on Anaheim, he's a very good goalie, like arguably top 10 in the league. Just needs a team in front of him, and maybe like a spark of hope, some light in his soul, something that makes him smile again. Yeah, something, anything that would make him happy, and it just doesn't seem like it happens. So, Taylor, I'm starting like there was rumor about it, and even like Frank Saravelli, your buddy, said like he would never play a game again. I'm starting to think now it's the opposite. Like Gibson will die as the Anaheim goalie.
Yeah, there's a very good chance. As soon as his contract is up, he instantly turns into like the Ducks goalie coach, and then down the road he becomes like a fucking goalie scout for them. Yeah, Frank, dude, fucking Frank. Frank hasn't said anything truthful, I swear to God, in fucking years. Yeah, so he's definitely he's rolling over in his fucking California king bed right now.
My God.
Yeah, I honestly, it's
and he just goes, he gets off the ice every game, and he's like, "Will you please let me go anywhere?
Just
anywhere. I'll go to Buffalo. I'll go to Ottawa. Anywhere." And they're just like, "No, John, you're never leaving. This is it for you.
Well,
you're not leaving the rink. Like
honestly,
you're never seeing your family again."
Jesus. we put up a little cot for you. You're staying here forever.
You're our franchise goalie, which means you're our goalie until you die.
Until the franchise moves.
Right. Until the Ducks are gone, you're our goalie. We're gonna put your urn in goal.
Yeah, it is bizarre. It's bizarre that like weird. As much as we put into in the offseason that he would be moved, as much as I think even Ducks fans have come to the realization that he probably should be moved, right? We got to eventually get some assets for him. It's really bizarre. I mean, we haven't heard any outside of, before the season even started when Saravelli was kind of making his shit up, right? Like, we haven't heard anything about it since then. So I don't know, man. I have no idea, right? And maybe you can't tell me TSN has more of an insider take, and that's why they're not sticking John Gibson on here. Like, there's a good chance that they just forgot him because he's at Anaheim. Like, I don't know, man. It's just insanity.
That's a tough contract to move, though, right? Like, he has 4 years left at $6 million, right? Like, I know he's having a good year this year. He's having like the bounce back year you wanted him to have, but like, man, that's. Like we're talking about, like a lot of the teams that need goalies, they're also capped out. So like he's just a hard goalie to fit into a lot of these teams like cap structures, right? Like,
yeah, I don't know though. I mean, like how God, you can't move out because you for sure, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe Verbeek does not want to retain 50% for the next 4 years or whatever. You know what I mean? Maybe. Like, you know, and maybe that's what's kind of stalling some of this stuff where like $3 million looks great to teams, but Verbeek's like, dude, I got, you know, I want to potentially compete in 3 years, right? Like that's what his thought process is. But do you really
think Gibson's going to be that competitive goalie in 3 years? He'll be what, 33, 34?
That's fine for goalies, man. That's totally fine. I think what we've alluded to is the amount of work.
Not always.
Yeah, that's fine for goalies that aren't facing 1,600 shots a year.
Sure.
Like,
sure. And to your point, Chance, yes,
he's going to have a 1,000-yard stare at the end of every season.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically giving John Gibson the fucking running back treatment at this point, right? Like the guy's gonna retire at like fucking 30 because he's just so
exactly.
It is really bizarre. I mean, it could still be a surprise that he gets moved. They have some really good tendies back down in San Diego too for the Ducks, which just it gives all the green light, right? Like, come on.
Move. Like if I'm needing a goalie right now, like Gibson is the goalie for the next 4 or 5 years. Like, if I'm the one, like if I'm sitting here going like, okay, if Verbeek's going like, okay, this is going to cost multiple firsts and a prospect and some retained and no retained salary, like if I can make that happen, that's one of the few players that you do make that happen for.
Yeah, and I think
that's a franchise goaltender.
Right. And one of the places that has kind of always been kicked around is Toronto, right? I mean, there's been a goalie need there for quite some time, right?
Every player in the league has been linked to Toronto at one point.
Sure, but I think right. So we saw Lyubushkin go there literally, minutes ago, right? So I think if we were going to see some of these teams that have kind of been kicked around as contenders for potentially John Gibson, we potentially would have seen a little bit more chatter. With that, there's a connection there, right? Clearly they've been talking, right? And the fact that, nothing, it's just really, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, realistically at this point, I'm strapped in for him to be there for another 4 years at this rate, right? I mean, we've been talking about this for what, fucking 2-3 years at this point. So, who knows, man? It's crazy. Craziness.
Yeah, well, it's talking about something that's not on the list, but like it's crazy. Like this started as like a hot commodity for goalies. Like lots of teams needed goalies, and now it just seems like it's either the sellers are not feeling it because to their point, like there are a lot of teams that are technically on the bubble. Like we're sitting here going like, okay, yeah, most of these bubble teams should be sellers. Like what are they going to do if they limp into the playoffs? But that being said, statistically speaking, they're still in it. So, they just don't want to sell. And I get that to a degree, having faith in your team and wanting to push forward. But at the same time, I don't know. Some teams need to know when to pull the cord. And
goalies are tough at the deadline because, right, if you're in a playoff spot already, you're probably not making a move for a goalie, right? Like we might see Carolina do it, but Freddie's skating again, right? We might see Toronto do it, but it's just much more rare because you're kind of already in that spot without a goalie potentially, right? Sure. If you didn't, so yeah.
And Toronto just got Bull back, so like they've kind of been waiting on is Joseph Woll to get healthy again. He started tonight. So I don't think the Leafs.
Samsonov's played better.
Yeah, and Samsonov has been fine, right? Like I don't think and the Leafs can't afford anything.
Same with Skinner. So, Skinner's rebounded, so like Edmonton's need for a goalie is not. Well, this all changes when we get to the playoffs. If we see a goalie that just can't handle it during the playoffs, like we've seen that before, where I think the best example is let's use the Devils again. Is it Vanacek?
Yeah, and Schmid, both of them, yeah.
Yeah, so Vanacek, like he was playing really well last season for the Devils, like putting up some pretty stellar numbers. Immediately makes the only reason that we know Schmid is because he got into the playoffs and absolutely fucking sucked.
Yeah. Yeah, goalies are tough. I honestly, they pulled Saros back, right? I think we officially saw that we're not going to get a Saros trade, which that's the right move, dude.
Trotz didn't close the door on that though. Like he had some comments where he was like, he basically was like, well, I'm listening, but also I got to do right by UC, right? So it's like, if someone gives him a crazy offer, like he'll go to him, but it's not likely, right?
Yeah, that's the political way to do it.
So
let's hit the list. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. So Aaron, you said earlier, Noah Hannafin, left defenseman, 26, so great age, putting up 39 points in 56 games for a defenseman is not bad. Calgary's been struggling most of the year, so also good thing to consider. Cap hit's not great, but it could be much worse. So, we're looking at, and he's a UFA next year, so potential to re-sign. I know people don't necessarily want rentals, but could be. Let's run it around. Noah Hannafin, does he get traded? Yes or no? And if he is, where's he going?
Yeah, Calgary's moving everybody out of town. So, and he's like vocally said, right, like he's ready to go. So, I think, I think he definitely gets moved. I think the way the Vancouver trade was interesting because it does seem like Calgary's GM kind of wants to move. Like he's got a vendetta against some teams, right? So I think it's going to be a little tricky to see where he's actually sending a guy like Noah Hannafin. I think he shoots him over to the East Coast somewhere.
That makes a lot of sense.
I think it's tough to figure out exactly where he's going to land.
It's not a bad contract. Like, I mean, it's not terrible. Again, it's not great. Like, it can be worked with a couple of the top teams that could make it happen.
Yeah, Detroit is an interesting name for me that I just think of with him.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a good fit. I think that
if they can sign him, a rental, like if you're a Boston, you're a Toronto, you're a Florida, a rental is fine. A rental doesn't make sense for Detroit.
Agreed.
But if they can sign him long term, I 100% agree.
Right.
I mean, part of the issue was like some of the reports were like Hannafin was wanting like $9 million a year, like that's part of it, which is just like psychotic. It's just like, dude, like you're not. I agree that I think he gets moved. A team that I've seen kind of referenced or connected to him a lot has been Tampa, which I think is really interesting. Like, I don't know how Tampa would have the prospects and picks to acquire him, but like as a fit, I think it works. But I don't know if that's
cap-wise though.
Maybe they take a bad contract for Calgary or something. If they've got the space to do it.
Yeah, I think cap is interesting, right? I mean, Sergachev being out, unfortunately, right? I think that probably frees up some space, so maybe they can squeeze him. But
flip their cap friendly.
They're
capped out, but again, like Sergachev's not coming back. Oh God, I forgot they still had Brent Seabrook on their cap. That's very funny.
Oh yeah.
So like they'd have to ship out contracts to make the money work.
Okay.
But as a fit, I think it works. But yeah, it would be tough to pull off.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, he could definitely help any team that's trying to make a push. Looking at the teams that are going to make a run, pretty much the only ones that can do it are like Vegas, right? Like because Franklin circumvents the cap by going on LTIR kind of shit. With Stone going down, confirmed all season and arguably into the playoffs, but he'll be fine. He'll be fine. Let's be real. So, they'll probably bring on somebody. I don't know if Noah Hannafin is a fit for Vegas, though, so to speak. That team is decent on the blue line.
Yeah, too many D.
Yeah.
I don't see that. They've been linked to a lot of forwards.
But I don't know. Like, going to Boston, those teams are all really up against the cap. I don't know if they can make it happen.
So, what about the Panthers?
Aren't they also against the cap?
The Panthers have some cap space, so they're not totally capped out, right? So, like, if they could get Hannafin, like the Flames would have to retain, which it's 1 year. It doesn't really matter. He's a UFA at the end of the summer. So
where does he fit though? Where does he fit? You're not bringing him in and putting him on a third.
Let me look at
the Panthers have been like surprisingly happy with their D. Like
Forsling
has jumped up. OEL is having a fucking renaissance.
And Montour, right? And you throw in some other guys, right? Like so, I don't know. I think Florida. That's not where Florida needs to go. I don't think. I think Florida's probably more a forward.
Maybe
if they're going to bring anybody, I think they're probably in the forward group there.
I would make an argument that he goes to a team that is not that thinks they're in it, but they're not in it. Like I could see Dubas doing something stupid.
He could also. Oh, he is a UFA at the end of the year, huh? I was going to say the other thing I could see is because he wants a big contract, I could see him maybe going to a team that is close to the bubble, but thinks that they can sign him for, not $9 million. There's no fucking way that guy.
There's no way he's not.
It's
insanity. I would
insane, dude.
I would listen to like 5, 5, 6.
Give me 6, maybe 6 to 7. 30 points and 56 is nothing to scoff at.
7 seems so high for me.
I mean that's essentially it's pretty close to a 50-point pace, right?
Yeah.
That's not a bad defenseman. I think
it's not nothing.
It's not nothing, and he can play some actual defense, right? Whereas what Vince Dunn got, right? I think Vince Dunn is a lot more. I mean, he brings a little feistiness and shit like that, but I think he's a lot more just straight offensive, whereas Hannafin does have a little bit of that D game. But
sure.
Yeah, I think 6, and I could see a team reaching for 7. But real quick, so move on. We're kind of stalling on Hannafin a little bit. The top 3, I know Tanev's gone now, but the top 3 on this board were all Calgary.
It's a side effect of Calgary being the only team that has signaled that they're open for business.
Gotcha.
Like they're literally the only team of 32 that has signaled like we are 100% selling. Like, I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. That's fair.
Markstrom, we kind of already have beat that a little bit. I mean, he's been linked to New Jersey. He's not been linked to New Jersey. He has been linked to New Jersey. There was a deal in place with New Jersey, and then there was cap retention. And then all of a sudden, New Jersey now retains salary on a trade for Calgary, which you've got to think has something to do with that. But the latest rumors are Markstrom's not going anywhere. So I don't know. Markstrom is not young by any means. So I don't necessarily believe those rumors. I think that he's definitely still on the way out.
I think so too.
So I don't necessarily buy into that. I think that's a tactic to try to drive up the price a little bit, or maybe convince people to take some money or finagle something. I don't know. Markstrom is a fantastic goalie in my opinion. I always liked his time in Vancouver. I always thought he got a bad shake in Vancouver because he was just behind a god awful defense. I think he's a good goalie, and I think that if he is he's an above average B+ A- goaltender. I think depending on the team that he goes to, like Boston doesn't need goalies. In fact, there's Ullmark his name's been thrown out. Depending on who he goes to, I think New Jersey's a perfect fit if you can't get another goalie. So I think that's a good spot.
Yep. Let's jump down to good old Jake. Do we have some guesses on where he's going? Is he going?
He's been linked to
back and forth though,
everyone.
So
he's been linked to almost everybody.
Him to Vegas makes too much sense.
Really does. And I hate that. I don't want to cheer for fucking
it's either him or Buchnevich. One of those two is going to end up in Vegas. I'm convinced.
Red Wings have convinced themselves that this makes sense too, to go to the Red Wings.
Jake Guentzel. I really do like Guentzel. I think he's great.
Great.
I think it'd be
you have to expect a decline in production when he's not skating with Crosby, but I'm not in the category of like, as soon as he leaves Crosby's flank, he's terrible. I'm not in that camp. I think he's good. It's just you should expect a mild decline. You're
paying for Jake Guentzel from Crosby's wing, right? Correct. So no GM is going to listen to the argument. Well, when he gets to my team, he's not going to be as good, right? No one's going to listen to that, and so you're paying the Jake Guentzel next to Crosby.
Otherwise, if you say that, you're not getting Jake Guentzel like that.
100%. That you're getting off, dude.
We've talked about it a little bit before. The argument that Guentzel stays with Pittsburgh, I just don't think makes sense to me. Whether from the team perspective, or from the Guentzel perspective, right? Like, what's my motivation to sign long term with Pittsburgh? Like, I'm going to have to take a team deal because this team is not going to move on from Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and Chris, not Tanev, fucking
Letang and Erik Karlsson.
Right. The gang's all here kind of thing. Like the core of this team, basically, that Erik Karlsson's now been thrown in. Like, they're not moving on from it. So, like, once they retire let's totally honest conversation. How many years has Crosby got left? 3, 4?
It's so hard to tell.
Hey,
so hard to
keeps
tell.
Playing like this, he could play for another like 10, but like I'd say outside at the high end 5.
I'd say 5. Okay, yeah, that's probably my max.
That's pushing it. So you're Jake Guentzel, where like, do I want to sign on to Crosby's golden years, and then become like the new captain of this team during the rebuild, or do I want to pave my own path? And I don't know. Maybe he's happy in Pittsburgh and wants to ride that into the sunset. As long as Crosby wants to play, he'll play next to him. But I don't know. We'll see. And if I'm Dubas, I'm looking at it going like, I don't know. Guentzel's value might be as high as it's ever been.
It's a really interesting situation.
I might have to pay this guy $9 million next year.
Yeah, fuck, that would be. I like Jake Guentzel, but God damn, $9 million's a lot.
Yeah, that's too much for Jake Guentzel.
That's too much for Jake Guentzel. But
okay, so he'll probably ask for 9. What do you think he actually gets? 8,
7.5, 8. Yeah, I mean,
he's getting. They're
gonna whittle him down.
He's getting paid 6 right now, and he's overpaying, and he's playing above that contract.
Yeah, I mean, but point per game guy is probably right around 7.5, 8.
Okay,
I don't know. Yeah. So here's my thing, right? With the Jake Guentzel thing.
But if another team would pay him 9.
Sure. Right. Depending on their cap space.
Sure.
There's a difference, and it reminds me a little bit of the situation in Boston, right? You had a Brad Marchand, you had a David Pastrnak, you had those studs down the middle, right? You had your Bergeron and your Krejci, right? Mm-hmm. What Pittsburgh does not have is the Pastrnak to Guentzel, right? Or the Pastrnak to Marchand, right? So there isn't that other guy that it's like, okay, once these two centers leave, we can kind of just pick up the slack, and we're still young enough we can get going, right? And they haven't had success. I mean, they missed last year, right? So whereas with Boston, right, Marchand and Pastrnak re-signed on there because they had each other and they were still doing well, right? So I think realistically their move is to move Jake Guentzel, or say fuck it and double down and bring someone in, dude. But
the thing is, like,
squeeze it. Who knows?
All the moves that the Penguins have made for the last like 3 or 4 years have been: we have Sidney Crosby, we have Malkin, we have Letang. We are going to take as many kicks at the can as we can, and we are mortgaging the future to try and get kicks now. And that check is finally coming due, right? Like, and trading Jake Guentzel gets you like a first and a prospect.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to fix the Penguins. They're still going to be just as terrible, right? They are driving. They are doing Thelma and Louise driving to the cliff. The cliff is coming. It's going to come whether or not they trade Jake Guentzel.
It's going to be bad for a very long time.
And so, that's why I think, they are going down with that ship. And so you might as well, if Guentzel's willing to re-sign,
blow the whistle. Yeah,
you might as well just
4 years, 4 years at $8 million, and just write it out.
They have committed them, and a lot of that was pre-Dubas for sure. Like that was like Hextall and prior leadership, right? So regardless, the Penguins are on that track. And so if you're Kyle Dubas, there is no avoiding that. You are managing the downfall of Sidney Crosby. So why not just go all in now?
This screams Kenny Holland to me. Like this screams like late early 2000s, early teens 2000s of the Red Wings, where Kenny Holland's trying to milk every single drop of Datsuk and Zetterberg and those guys that are like, and Lindstrom even, those guys that are just, let's get one more year out of them. Let me put Justin Abelkader next to him. Let's get Mike Modano. How about Alfredson?
Yeah.
Let's run it back. Let's run it back one more time. Just one more time. And then the Red Wings go on a fucking 12-year fucking just suck fest. And look, as we're fans of the league. It could be much worse. I could be a Buffalo fan where I haven't seen success since Ryan Miller,
right.
So I get it. It could be much worse. But that being said, like this team is destined for that. You're right. I think you're 100% right. Like Crosby's got 3 to 5 years left. those last 2 years, like it's gonna we're gonna be real sad. Like we're gonna be like, God damn, just put him down already. Like please, like stop. It's gonna get rough.
I think what's tricky about Pittsburgh too is like they've had a bad pipeline for ever, right? So you don't have like
really
there's no help coming.
There's no one coming, right? So if you're expecting Crosby to retire there, and you've kind of just got to take your chances for the next 3 years, and I think if you can talk with Gensel and say, look, I'll bring you your Pasternak, or I'll bring you your Brad Marsh, it's an easy comparison.
I will get you to a cup winner if you ride this out.
Right. I think that's the route to go. So I don't think Gensel actually. I think it's so tough. I think it's 50-50.
Or if you're going to be that bad, and you're going to be that bad, why not pay Jake Gensel $9 million?
Yeah, sure.
Like pay him for services rendered under Sidney Crosby, right? Like,
yes.
It's not like there's going to be, like we've all just said, there's no help coming in their pipeline. There's nothing that they could do to, like, it's going to be a long rebuild.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, who cares if Jake Gensel makes too much money for his production at age, 35? It doesn't matter. The team's not going to be relevant until they miss the playoffs and get Macklin Celebrini in the draft lottery. But
sure.
But they're not going to be relevant. So at that point, who cares what you're paying Jake Gensel? Paying $10 million. Who cares?
Agreed. I don't, not to go out of order, but I want to keep the theme here. Let's go to poor man's Jake Gensel, Pavel Buchnevich.
Sure.
Who's down at 11. We'll go back up, but either Gensel's not available or I just can't pay the asking price that Dubas wants. Like this is ridiculous. There's no way that I can fucking, like, he wants, Connor McDavid or something. Like, okay, that's not realistic. How about Buchnevich?
I like Buchnevich, dude. For me, like, this is with 1 year left, this is not a guy that I move, right? But I think for me, the coming out party of Jake Neighbors, which we've been talking about with Devin for, since the kid was drafted, it's allowed them to kick the tires on Buchnevich being moved. But I think, St. Louis is in this weird spot where, like, people had them a little higher this year. They've had them a little higher, the last 2 years, right? So, like, at this point, we probably should make a change. And I think that's why we're seeing his name so many places. The tricky part with him, getting back to cap stuff, you can't move him to a Vegas. You can't move because he has a year left, right? They would be forced to move someone out in the off season, right? It's just it makes that situation a little bit trickier. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he goes. It's got to be, and again, maybe that's depending on cap, right? That maybe that's somewhere for Florida, right? They technically don't have a lot of guys that are out right now that are not hitting the cap, and that's why they could squeeze them in this season. So yeah, I think realistically they probably should shake something up there, but whoever gets him is going to have a nice little player, dude. I really like him.
I love him to Carolina.
Yeah, it's an offensive hungry team, right?
Yeah, that's a team that needs people that can put the puck in the net, and Pavel Buchnevich has the ability to put the puck in the net. Like, for sure. So he does have a cap hit, but Carolina has some cap money available. Like, they're not totally capped out, so they could pretty easily get him under their cap, but they need a guy like him, and he fits such a need they've had for a couple of years now. Of there's such a great team in possession and play driving. They just lack high-end finishing talent. And not to say that Buchnevich is like Austin Matthews, but he's better than what they have available. Especially last year when
isn't Austin Matthews?
Yeah, I know this is breaking news to a lot of people. But for
a team doesn't have 50 goals.
I don't believe that.
Maybe for his career.
Can we stat check that?
For the last 3 years.
Yeah. But I mean, when your other options are as much as I like him, like Marty Necas and Michael Bunting and Kotkaniemi and Teravainen and Svechnikov, and they have a bunch of like good guys like that are good, and you want them on your team, but like they don't have anyone that can just sit back and just like let it rip.
Yeah, Svechkin Barry. I mean, personally, I think Svechnikov is a better goal scorer than Buchnevich, but very close, right? I mean, but from there, right? Like Teravainen is a very streaky player, right? He's very hot and cold. Aho is obviously good, but outside of that, exactly like you're saying, I mean, I would I'm being very generous throwing Teravainen into anywhere in the same conversation as Svechnikov and Aho on that team.
Yeah,
right. It falls off immensely, even after those three, I would say, right? So I mean, that's a perfect move. I think
I'm looking at their forward list, like Aho, Svechnikov, Teravainen, Kotkaniemi, Bunting, Natchez, Stahl, Jesper Foss, Jordan Martinook, Jack Drury, like Seth Jarvis, like
they're a better Seattle Kraken, right? Like this is a team that is incredibly deep, but has no like star. Like no one.
I would argue Aho. I would argue Aho flies under the radar.
I see. I know these stats. Like Aaron, what's the best season that Aho's had? Like I think he's never been a 40 goal scorer or something like that.
I know he's 10th in the league in scoring since he came into the league. Let me look.
Okay, I know he's always had solid stats, but he's not like there's an argument to be made that he is not a true blue goal scorer.
Yeah, I mean, but there's
he's solid. Like I'm not.
Passers over.
I'm definitely not saying that Sebastian Aho is a bad hockey player. No,
Sebastian Aho. He over the last 3 years, he had 36 goals last year, 37 the year before that. Then he had 24 in the short year, and then he had 38 the year before that. So he's consistently a mid-30s.
He's consistently a good player, but Jared McCann scored more goals than him last year.
What are you doing?
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying right now. That's what I'm
doing this. And famously, Jared McCann has repeated that production. That was definitely sustainable.
He's not.
And he wasn't just shooting out of his mind.
What I'm saying is like Sebastian Aho is not David Pastrnak. He's not Austin Matthews. He's not Clay. I would take Keller. I like Clayton Keller over Sebastian.
I would rather have Sebastian Aho than
I'd rather have Aho as well. I think you can look at I agree. He's not in the upper echelon. Like he's not a McDavid. He's not a Pastrnak. He's not a fucking Matthews. I'll agree with that.
He's a Dylan Larkin, and I love my Dylan Larkin. Like I love Dylan Larkin. Like there's no but like there's a drop off. You know what I mean? Like he's still one of the top players in the league. He's just not. It's like if some like Red Wings fans. God, I even get angry at Red Wings fans because how is Dylan Larkin not one of the top centers in the league? It's like, well, because he's just not. Like he's very good. I love Dylan Larkin, but he's not Austin Matthews. He's not David Pastrnak.
Right. But I mean, I think you can look at Vegas last year, right? Who's their star, right? Jack Eichel, right? And Jack Eichel is, in my opinion, in the same category as Aho, right? So I mean, you can win.
I would agree.
From a points and goals perspective, right? And yes, Eichel has had some unfortunate injury shit, right? Like
that's fair.
There's only so much you can do. But that team was fucking dominant, right? Like, so I think it can,
and that's what wins teams. To your point,
sure.
Like that's what wins cups, though, right? Like,
sure.
More often than not, like a lot of Edmonton fans will be like, if McDavid was just more of a team player instead of having to put the whole team on his back, and I think there is a little truth to that, in the sense of like this is a team sport. Like at the end of the day, you can't, like it's just like every time we watch a team every year. Where one guy, like, remember the Carey Price year where Montreal just, Carey Price put that team on his back, drug them to the final kicking and screaming. Like
Erik Karlsson had a fucking year like that in Ottawa, dude.
Exactly. Like it never works out for those teams. Okay, rarely works out for those teams.
Sure.
Like more often than not, it's the team that's more well-rounded. I think the best example of that is those Kings years. Like those Kings Cups, and then the Blues were an excellent example of that. Like their star was Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Like I'm not taking away from it. Like I was talking more on individual stats. Like I love the Carolina Hurricanes. I love how they're set up. I think it's their only weak point is goaltending, in my opinion.
Oh, but Peter Kochetkov could potentially be the answer. We saw this last year in spurts too. Mm-hmm. So I've always, we've talked to fucking, to exhaustion about how much they need attendee. I don't think I'm kind of with Aaron. I don't think, and not saying that they don't go with the goalie still, but I think forward is definitely their position at this point, right? I mean, the way Kochetkov's been playing. Fuck. And here's the thing with this guy too. I love this guy too. I think he has so much passion that from a goalie is just bizarre, right? He loves to fucking win. When he went into the penalty box and fucking hid from the rest of his team while they were celebrating, right? Yep. The guy is entertaining as fuck, and I think the team is like rallying in front of him essentially. So yeah, I personally I love Buchnevich to Carolina. Because I think that gives them, Teravainen is a very debatable topic there. But
what about Tarasenko?
It gives them 4 people.
What about Tarasenko?
Tarasenko is we have Pavel Buchnevich at home. Like
right,
correct.
Right.
Wow. So Pavel Buchnevich is we have Jake Gensel at home, and Tarasenko is we have him at home. Like
remember when like the Ottawa Senators sent out the exact same press release about Vladimir Tarasenko that they did about. The guy that the Red Wings signed, that DeBrincat, thank you. Yeah. Like he was it's the same thing. And then like, he's still Vladimir Tarasenko. He's 32. He's going to score maybe 20 goals. Like, okay,
and here
that's fine. He's not, ask the Rangers how acquiring Vladimir Tarasenko worked out. Like it.
Right.
And Buchnevich being 28, right? That fits right into an Aho. That fits right into Svechnikov's a little bit younger. That fits right into Teravainen, right? I think, I love that fit. So we'll see what happens with that one.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, that's not bad at all. Adam Henrique, you think he's going somewhere?
100%. Okay. He's not. They're not getting for him
rental, right? Like he's going somewhere for rental, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of Ducks fans that think he's going to go chase a cup and then come back, but who knows? But to be honest with you,
why would he do that to himself? Why would he do that?
He's a big surfer or something. I have no idea.
He's actually getting ready for his surfing career. Like
100%, dude.
He complains like, "Oh, my day job, I gotta go play fucking hockey, I guess." But my heart is on the beach.
Yeah. So there's a lot of very optimistic Ducks fans that think that they'll get a first-round pick out of him. I think Monahan was because of Monahan, right? Because of what they were looking at with Monahan.
Yeah.
But I think he's probably closer to a second, but who knows, man? There are some scoring hungry teams that, could get very desperate and think that, potentially a third line center. He can play some left wing too. So
real quick,
I think he's gone, but
real quick, St. Louis Blues expert Devin Lewis asked on his opinion of Pavel Buchnevich, quote, solid player, needs a solid line mate like Thomas to be effective, but if we aren't making the playoffs, not a bad piece to trade to go younger and build.
Okay.
So Blues expert Devin Lewis right there.
Ugh. I hate those words on the same fucking
all of them, every single one.
Well, not anything to do with Buchnevich. I think he's not too far off there. I think Devin Lewis, Blues expert, has a fucking muddy ring to it. They're like just bad.
It really does. It sounds like somebody who won't pay you his fantasy dues.
That's right. He thought he could beat me last week too in the fucking in the shit team bowl. He's gonna have a rough time when both of us miss the playoffs.
with my list, you, me, and Devin are gonna fucking battle it out in the consolation bracket.
There you go. All right, let's jump to a few more here before we.
Let's quick fire real quick. Aaron, tell me a little bit about Edmonton's 2024 first rounder. What do you think about this guy?
I know it's a hell of a lot more valuable than Sean Walker.
So
I think that's So we're getting down. Like there aren't very many other names that I think are even really worth talking about. Your Scott Alexander Carrier, like whatever. Like
Chikrin.
Let's
if Chikrin moves, he's interesting.
Let's go around and fire names at each other. So I'll go first. I'll give you guys a name. Jacob Chikrin. Taylor, go. What's going to happen with Chikrin?
He's gone.
Okay, where's he going?
He's gone. 25, man. He's been
linked with Detroit.
Okay, I could see that. It's the same reason I said Noah Hannafin there.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it's probably a West Coast team. I see them kind of moving him out that direction. But yeah, I don't know exactly where he fits in, but I think he's gone.
Okay. All right, Taylor, give Aaron one.
Aaron, let's do a fun one here. How about Jordan Eberle, dude?
Ooh, that's a good one.
So he's been linked with Vegas, which is interesting.
Vegas,
I can see that. I could see that.
They've kind of said that if he doesn't re-sign, which I don't know why he would re-sign in Seattle, but that seems to be.
I've seen Edmonton rumors.
Yeah, like
that'd be fun.
Sure,
that would be hilarious.
Like he is what he is, right? Like he's gonna be okay, and he's not gonna move. I mean, we're at the point where there are not needle movers, right? Like there's a reason he's one slot above Jack Roslovic. As much as I like Jack Roslovic, like what are we doing here? Like we're at the point where we're just exchanging depth players, and I think that so like whatever. Jordan Eberle totally fine. He might help somebody, but if you're acquiring Jordan Eberle, don't expect him to like move the needle for you one way or the other.
What are you excited about 10 goals in 51 games? Like you can't be, right?
Exactly.
He's a locker room depth, veteran presence, okay?
Sure. That's right. I would love him to go to Edmonton. That'd be such a good
Oh my god, that would be so great.
Yeah, awesome.
That would be so great. He'd hate his life.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck this place.
Yeah. All right. Frank Vetrano.
The tank, dude.
Ooh.
26 goals, baby. That's a nice season.
He is I'm not necessarily saying that this is like one of the most 17 is kind of low. Like honestly, man, like Vetrano could be a really good fucking depth fit.
He's a sneaky player.
Yeah. And at 3.65, like I would say he's definitely rental. He's not signing. He's not signing wherever. Like he'll. I think Vetrano tests free agency.
But he's gonna want more than that
for sure. But he's got rental written all over him. He's going to a contender. I definitely could see him going to a contender for sure. Anybody who can fit it in, because he's also affordable.
Yeah. 3.6. I mean, you could potentially have him retain 50%, right? Like there's
$2 million cheaper than Jordan Eberle. Like what are we doing? Like what are we talking about?
If
half goal per game.
Let me throw this at you. How about New York?
Yeah.
That's going to be hard to fit in after they acquire Alex Wenberg,
Sure. Fuck. Yeah, wishful thinking.
No one say Alex Wenberg in because I'm gonna turn the rotation around, so I'm gonna fire one at Aaron here. No one say Alex Wenberg, okay? Alex Wenberg needs to get traded to the Sun.
Keep hearing him with the Rangers, man.
In all honesty, like I'll double dip on that. Like Wenberg, he's not a bad player. It's just the fact that he's playing way above his punching class, whatever the hell it is, punching above his weight on the Kraken. Like because the Kraken just don't have, somebody in the second line center role. Wenberg is there. He needs to go. He's a good passer. That's about all he's good for. So yeah, I mean, I want to say like Boston, but like Boston needs a first line center, not a third line center.
Sure.
So I don't know. I don't know. He could definitely
running with third line centers hasn't stopped him so far.
Yeah, they've been doing pretty good with some third liners.
They've been doing it. And Morgan Geekie got a hat trick for God's sake. Like
that's very correct.
Crazy. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. Aaron, I'm gonna throw a fun one at you right now.
Sure.
Jake Allen.
Oh God. I mean,
who's he gonna back up, dude?
I mean, yeah, that's the thing, right? Is like, what do you think you're getting if by acquiring Jake Allen? Like, that's kind of the thing, right?
Insurance in case your main goalie goes down.
Like, yeah, he's a guy that, like, you're getting him as an insurance policy. So, I mean, you can pick
Colorado.
I don't hate that one. The other one I don't hate is Edmonton. Right, give him a little backup over there.
Who's Skinner's backup right now?
It's fucking Calvin Pickard. Last I looked, dude.
Oh no, not Calvin Pickard.
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
dude.
it's like those.
When Calvin,
You're hurting.
I feel like Calvin Pickard has been the backup goalie for teams for like the last 30 years.
I don't know. Did Jack Campbell have like 2 good starts in the AHL? And
Whoa.
we can pretend that Jack Campbell's gonna come back up, right?
Coming back. Yep.
I mean, it's like those types of teams, right? Like teams that just need. Okay. If you just need goaltending insurance, like pick any one of those. Again, he's not moving the needle for anybody. Like so.
Sure.
All
right, Aaron, who you got for Taylor?
All right, let's do one more Taylor because we were talking about it earlier. Matthew Dumba.
I knew
out of the Yotes. Out of the Yotes.
Damn it. First round pick. I'm dishing 3 first rounders for him.
At least, yeah.
Yeah. God. They're really there's legitimate talk and chatter that he is worth a first round pick, and it's unbelievable to me.
Okay, so I was just trolling you, but I'll give you an actual name. Riley Smith.
Ooh. I like
that. Good one. It's a good one. If he is moving, which, why not? To me, Riley Smith, he's got a cup. To me, Riley Smith is Andre Palat, right? You're bringing him in with the cup. That's realistically all you're bringing him in for. So you're throwing him on a third line if you're very desperate. If you are Carolina, right? There's a very good chance he could touch a second line, but that's really all he is, right? So I'd stick him in the same boat. I think Granlund and Duclair are other interesting names that we kind of saw on that list, right? So I think you can you just bundle those guys in with the fucking Windbergs of the world. But yeah. We'll see. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be a good week. We had some trades live, dude. I think it's gonna be interesting.
Yep, I agree. All right, Taylor, hit me with one, and then we'll call it. Go way low. I want 40-50.
You want 40-50?
I want bottom of the fucking list.
Crazy fuck, dude. Oh, I got a real fun one for you. Here you go.
Okay, here we go.
Tyson Barrie.
Oh, he sucks.
He sucks. Sure. Okay. Yeah. Move on.
He sucks. Tyson Barrie will be traded to the fucking Boise Steelheads.
Sure. There you go. ECHL, baby.
Yeah, it's all right.
Bring him down.
Skipping right past the AHL.
Right.
Tyson Barrie. He does bring some offense. Like Tyson Barrie strikes me as like at this point in his career, he's like a Tony DeAngelo, where you're not counting on him for defense. He's there to quarterback a power play, perhaps.
Sure.
He's an offensive push. So teams that maybe are hurting for that could possibly be in that neighborhood. But that being said, Nashville's in a playoff spot, and on an 8-game winning streak.
They also haven't been using him. Right, they brought him in. They played him first line, first power play for 5 games, and then they were just like, nah.
And are we at the point where like the Tyson Barrie experiment is just like, it's not like Tyson, like this is his first home, and like, if he could just find a new home with a new crowd, like nobody seems to be able to make Tyson Barrie work. He went from Colorado to Toronto to Edmonton and now to Nashville, and it just. The Tyson Barrie experiment just doesn't seem to be working. I don't know what it is.
It's his price, dude. It's his price. You feel like you have to play him.
Yeah.
At his what's his fucking cap hit? 4.5, right? So you feel like you have to play him, but realistically at this point he's a third line guy that maybe runs a second power play, right? And that's what he is.
Is he still the all-time leading scorer for the Avalanche by a defenseman?
I hate that.
He was. Let me look it up.
Makar's got to be past him by this.
Makar just passed him. Makar's 308. Okay. Tyson Barrie had 307. But up until very recently, Tyson Barrie was the all-time franchise leader in defenseman scoring for the Colorado Avalanche.
Like Adam Foote,
Adam Foote didn't. He was a point scorer.
That's
true. Adam Foote was like a stay-at-home defenseman, and even though they retired Ray Bork's number for like 1 year of work, he was only there for a year and a half. Like they haven't had anybody like.
Sure. I'm not saying that Tyson Barrie can't assist a team. I mean, his cap hit sucks for what he does. But could he? If Nashville retains half or if they can get, 2 million, he could help a team on a cup run or maybe a wild card team trying to sneak in. But it's not that Tyson Barrie is not useless in this league anymore. It's just like Tyson Barrie is way too much for his. It does blow me away that he's not getting played. Like I'm not. I sit here and I joke that Tyson Barrie sucks, and he does suck, but he's not completely inept. Like I think there is a place for him on a team. It's just not. It's not that, and the fact that he's not playing right now is not going to help his trade value.
Yeah, give me Tyson Barrie at 2 to 3 tops.
Yep.
Put him on my third pairing, and then I mean that second power play could be pretty solid with Tyson Barrie on it.
Yep,
and that's like his skill set, right? Is like he quarterbacks power plays, and that's
32. Still a little bit of tread on those tires.
I love it. All right, that's it, folks. Anything else you want to say?
No, I got nothing, man. I'm so stoked. I'm excited to see where Frank goes. If Frank goes back to New York, I'm gonna be fucking stoked.
Hell yeah. I love it. So folks, we don't actually have a live stream scheduled at the moment. If we do, we'll post it out on Twitter and let you guys know when something's coming up. But expect our next episode to be coming out next Friday on deadline day. We'll be coming at you with the total recap of everything that's happened between now and then. And it's going to be a good episode. We historically call it for future considerations, which ironically, I think they got rid of that loophole. I don't think you can do future considerations anymore.
No way. What a ripoff.
Aaron might need to research that, and we can address it in the next episode, but I think they got rid of future considerations.
That's fucking tragedy.
I know, he was my favorite player.
That sucks. I was about to get a consideration 6-9 on the back, dude.
So you can still trade for future considerations, but it cannot be only future considerations. So
it's got to be
yes, you can't.
Bag of pucks and future.
Correct. Yeah, you can't trade a pick or a player for just future considerations. So
we're
there has to be something else involved.
We're back to essentially just moving money.
Yeah, it could be like a conditional 7th and future considerations, but it can't only be future considerations.
All right, the corpse of Pavel Datsyuk is going to start making its rounds through the NHL again.
Dude, so future considerations value just went down, and that's what pisses me off. That poor guy has battled and just worked his ass to this point, and they do him like that. It's fucking
all right.
dirty.
We get Atlanta Thrashers jerseys with consideration 69.
Love that, or the California Seals, man.
Hell yeah.
Speaking of Chris Chelios, my favorite Atlanta Thrasher, Chris Chelios.
Hey, there you go.
Thrasher
alum. I love Marian Hossa, the Coyote.
That's right. Pavel Datsyuk, the Coyote.
That's right.
All right, folks. We appreciate you listening. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe to us on whatever that you listen to your podcasts on: YouTube, Spotify, Pandora. We are on Pandora. Apple Podcasts, all the fun ones, all of them. And we'll see you next week. Goodbye.